Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Franchise Unfiltered podcast. Today, I'm joined once again by Andy Fuller. Andy's the founder and CEO of Mosquito Hunters, but they've been going through some really interesting changes, which is why I wanted to have Andy come back on the podcast. They've gone through a bit of a rebrand, added some additional service lines to the business for their franchisees. Andy was on the show probably within the last 6 months. I think Andy, you were on and just kind of initially told us about the Mosquito Hunters brand and some of the different services that you guys have pivoted into to help your franchisees really be able to continue to scale. So we'll link that episode in the show notes. So anyone who didn't catch it, I would definitely encourage you go back, take a listen to that. But anyways, man, you guys have a lot of exciting things going on. So excited to have you back to share some of the updates with us.
Yeah, thanks again so much for having me back on the show. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Every time I've had a chance to talk with you, whether it's recording a podcast or at a conference or whatever, I've always really enjoyed the conversations. And you're to me, you're a really good example of like a founder, in a business that's in it for the right reasons. I mean, I would imagine you've had numerous opportunities to kind of take your chips off the table, because the brand has been so successful, but you really come across as someone that, genuinely loves the business and loves, helping your franchisees learn the business and be successful with it and hit the type of goals that they were looking to accomplish when they set out to be in business for themselves in the first place. So always fun talking to someone like you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I love it. This is small business owners are my tribe. And I say
Yeah.
that every time that I meet up with franchisees. There's something about it that just feels like home. And I remember what it was like to work in corporate America and hate my life.
Yeah.
And I know what it feels like to like get on the right track and feel like you're doing work that's has meaning and purpose. And I love it. Would love it for this to be my life's work where I'm just helping people know what it feels like, the satisfaction and joy of owning your own business.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And hey, I think you're well on your way to that being your life's work, and you've done quite a bit of that already. So give us kind of a quick, for those that didn't hear you the first time on the show, give us kind of a quick overview. How did the business start out? Mosquito Hunters was the brand up until very recently. As I mentioned, you guys have gone through a rebrand. And then how did it kind of evolve to the point of adding additional services? And then, I want to talk a little bit more about what was that whole process like of a rebrand, because that's a pretty big undertaking.
Yeah, no doubt. So I started the original Mosquito Hunters location here in the Chicago suburbs. I'm in the Chicago suburbs back in 2014. I was moonlighting that. I still had, a day job, but I wanted to get out. I wanted to do my own thing, and I knew that I wanted to franchise. I just didn't know anything about it. But long story short, started franchising 2016. Got together with the team that ended up becoming what's known as Happy Nest in 2018, and we're at the point now we're at about 150 plus locations and just scratching the surface. And for a long time, the business model was, get in, hustle really hard for 6 to 9 months, depending on where you're at in the country.
Mm-hmm.
You make as much money as you can, you grind, but we focus on mosquitoes, maybe some fleas and some ticks, but that's what we do.
Yeah.
And that served us really well for a long time. And over time, we started to see the market evolve and adapt. And we started seeing also a trend among our franchisees that said, we want more.
Mm-hmm.
We don't just want this seasonal business. We want more than just a lifestyle. We want to build empires.
Yeah.
Give us more. And so it started with a few years ago having a few pilots with franchisees where we could expand beyond mosquito, tick, and flea into other kinds of pest control,
Okay.
spiders, rodents, things like that. And then another pilot led by Josh Ambrose in Jacksonville, Florida, one of our franchisees, where we focused on holiday lighting. And over the course of many years, 2-3 years, we built out a model that was kind of inspired in some ways by like what Yum Brands has done with KFC and
Uh-huh.
Bell and Pizza Hut, where you can have multiple brands under one roof.
Yeah.
Or another one is like Dunkin' with they have Dunkin' and Baskin Robbins under the same roof.
Yeah.
We started to realize as this was coming together, it's like, what if we could be the first home and commercial services business that has multiple service lines and multiple brands under one franchise brand, under one operation? And that's what led us to where we are today, which is a 3-in-1 concept, 3 service lines and 1 brand: Pest Hunters, Mosquito Hunters, and Humbug Holiday Lighting.
Okay. So what's the new brand that you've rolled out?
It's Pest Hunters, Mosquito Hunters, and so it's I should have come prepared with something, but it's, if you go to our website, you can see it. You just go to mosquitohunters.com or pesthunters.com.
Okay.
We have our circular logo, and it says Pest Hunters up top and Mosquito Hunters along.
Okay, so yeah, it really is, and my editor will find the new logo and throw it in, so
Thank you,
people
editor.
can see it.
Thank you for making up for my lack of preparation.
No lack of preparation. That's something that they can easily handle, and we do it all the time. But so it really is 3 distinct, unique brands. But now your franchisees have the opportunity to essentially own and operate all 3 of these services, under one roof.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah, right. That is unique. That's definitely unique, because I think we talked some about this last time, where like I'm a big fan of the holiday lighting business. Like, to me, it makes a lot of sense, and it makes a lot of sense why a business like yours would look to incorporate something like that to offset some of the seasonality. Because obviously holiday lighting is not year round, and the peak seasons complement each other, in mosquito control and holiday lighting. But yeah, it seems like a lot of the other companies that have said, okay, yeah, let's add holiday lighting, it's been kind of just I don't know, lack of a technical term, a half-ass, attempt at it. And it's not, the goal has not been to really build it out as a business in itself. It's just kind of like a little add-on, and some franchisees are doing more of it than others, and some aren't even really focusing on it at all. It sounds like maybe you guys kind of started piloting it that way as just kind of an add-on, but realized like, hey, this should be a business and a brand of its own. Mosquito Hunters, you've got a long track record and good brand recognition with that. And then the Pest Hunters could be, really a standalone brand too. So that is unique in the home and commercial services sector.
If you take like holiday lighting, take the widget away, and if you just look at the numbers, I would put it toe to toe with any other home service or commercial service, anything that's available. And that's what's so cool about it, is we can have a franchisee starting their first year with holiday lighting first before they even have time to get into Pest. Like, they come in the middle of the year, and they're able to just give themselves such a great launch pad to build upon for next year and the year after that and the year after that. It's not just about the revenue, but it's about the profitability. We've got lots of great stories that our franchisees can tell about, how it kind of changed the game for them by adding this on. So I think the thing that scares a lot of people away, rightfully so, it's like, okay, it's a holiday lighting business. What do you do the other 9 months of the year? It's like, well, we've already got that. Like you said, we've got this control.
It's the numbers are crazy on holiday lighting from what I've seen. And depending on how you I've seen different models, where the customer buys the lights. I've seen it where the customers kind of rent the lights, but your margins can definitely get better over time, right? Because most of your customers are going to keep coming back every year. So your cost of acquisition goes down. If you are renting the lights, over time, you have essentially no cost of goods. You've really just got labor to put them up and take them down. So
that's exactly right. That's what our model is.
Renting the lights. Mm-hmm. That makes more sense to me. It seems like it would just be so clunky to try to keep track of, okay, well, these lights belong to this person, because they're probably going to want you to store them in most cases.
Yeah, that's a huge part of the value prop, is we handle the storage, which is, if that's what you do, it's really not that big of a deal. You just have to have a really good process for it, which, we do. But otherwise, I would much rather we do it, because I do it here in Chicago with my business that I still own, locally. I would much rather we have possession of those lights during the off season than the homeowner. Because, you put it in the basement, or you put it somewhere where there's there's water that comes in, things like there's all sorts of complexity that can happen because either way, the customer is going to look at us to solve the problem.
Fix it.
Where
Yeah,
if
exactly.
fix
You
it,
can
whatever it is, even if
control.
it's their fault, well, it's a lot less likely to be that sort of headache if we're
Well,
just
I think about I've gotten better at it over the years because I've learned a little bit from my past mistakes. But in the past, we've done our own holiday lighting. Put it up, and I used to be really bad about how I boxed it all up and stored it. So then the next year when it was time to get them out, it was always such a headache. And so I did kind of develop a system, but I would rather have someone do it for me and not have to worry about it. But yeah, it's a good business in all of those senses, but it probably doesn't make a lot of sense, for someone that maybe doesn't have any other businesses to just say, hey, I'm going to go get into the holiday lighting business, because it is like probably a 4-month max kind of push, and that's
right.
where all of your business is going to happen. But for something like what you guys are doing with mosquito hunters, like I said, the seasons complement each other, and then the pest hunters is a natural kind of next step for you guys, I would imagine. But yeah, I don't know, the other companies I've seen try to incorporate the holiday lighting. I don't feel like they've done um, as good of a job of like really branding it and turning it into like an actual business model with systems. It's kind of just been a, hey, if you guys want to do some holiday lighting, go for it, go get them.
Right. It's almost that's reactionary and not
Uh-huh.
intentional. We wanted to
Yeah,
be really intentional about it. Here's the logo, by the way. I am prepared with this, Wes.
I love. I think last time you came on the show too, you had an awesome humbug holiday lighting sweater on. I love what you guys have done with the branding on that.
It just thank you. It feels it's so great to be able to wear this into like a because we do a lot of commercial as well, and I've done it myself. Walk
Yeah,
into a Chick-fil-A or walk into a car dealership in August or July even, and speak with the manager, and you're wearing this, and you get a lot of
yeah,
attention.
especially if you're walking around the middle of summer wearing that. But yeah, I would think commercial is huge opportunity for all of your service lines.
Yeah,
Um, the Chick-fil-A near where we used to live, which is at one point I think I had read it was like in the top 5 highest volume Chick-fil-A's in North Carolina. So this
really.
place is rocking. Um, and they do a huge Christmas lighting, thing every year. They deck it out, and it seems like they're trying to one up themselves every year that they do it. They're going to go a little
Yes.
bit bigger each year. And I had read, this was at least 3 or 4 years ago, I'd read like an article from a local reporter saying that they budgeted something like, I think it was like almost $100,000 or something for their holiday lighting.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Does it?
What's
Yeah.
cool about it, I mean, we've come to see it. Obviously, there's always this friendly competition, keep up with the Joneses factor with residential,
Yes,
but
definitely.
it's just as strong with commercial as well, with neighboring commercial locations. Think of car dealerships because they're
Yeah.
always in pockets together.
Yep.
They want to one up each other, in a
Yeah.
friendly
It's so true. It's a great business for kind of leveraging the keeping up with the Joneses. Like, we've got young kids, and so like there's everyone knows the neighborhoods that go all out on the Christmas lights, and we'll throw the kids in the car and go drive around and just look at Christmas lights. And you know we moved since last Christmas, but used to go to that Chick-fil-A, get them a little treat or some sort, and then drive around and look at the lights. And every year, they're taking it up a level. And they've got to be paying professionals to come in and do it. Like some of these neighborhoods, there's no way those people are doing it themselves.
Yeah, it's just too much to manage. But it's interesting is we've seen it happen many times now too. Is you think, oh, maybe it's not that kind of neighborhood, or you don't know, or you hear somebody call and ask for a quote, and you give them a price. And I mean, our average job size is $1,900,
Okay.
and you'll
Yeah.
hear customers say like, "Whoa, like I was thinking 200, 300," and that's fine. You're going to have plenty of people say that.
Yeah.
That's fine. But there is, again, that keeping up with the Joneses thing where you
Yeah.
get one neighbor that's got that really legit lighting display. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden you see this trickle down effect where a lot of other people want to have that too. Cause it's just, I mean, to the blind eye, like there's just no contest. It's very easy to see the homemade job versus the professional job.
And it's the type of thing, it's like, if you've got a neighbor that goes all out and hires a professional, and you have the choice of doing it yourself or not doing it, it's almost better to not do it. Right? Like,
Right.
if you do it
There's
yourself,
no
it's
good
going
at
to
all.
like amplify how pitiful looking it is. And well, we learned I think I said that, where we moved into our new house in July of 24. So this past Christmas was our first Christmas in our new house, and because we live at the beach, like a lot of the houses are built on pilings, so it's technically a 3-story house, but the bottom floor is not conditioned. So it's second and third floor of the living floors. But, in the past, I've done my own holiday lighting, and I looked at our house as we got into November and started talking about Christmas decoration. I said, I don't even have a ladder tall enough to get me up anywhere
Right.
near where I would need to be to put the lights up. And at that point, we reached out to a few companies, and we were way late to the game. This is probably early November,
Right.
because we've been so busy with just getting moved in and getting settled. It didn't even cross my mind until we got into like November and closer to Thanksgiving. Like, man, we got to figure out something to decorate this house. So we didn't do any Christmas lights this year. We did wreaths in the windows and like some lit up garland on the front, railing on the stairs, but it wasn't very impressive. So I already know I've got to get at the front of the line. We'll get right back to the episode in just a minute, but if you've been considering business ownership, if you're already a business owner looking to expand and you're curious about franchising, I'd love to connect with you, answer any initial questions that you have, talk about a specific franchise, and detail the exact process that I use and have taken hundreds of people through to help them understand franchise ownership, find the right franchise for them, and conduct the necessary due diligence. Click the link in the show notes if you'd like to schedule a free, no obligation strategy call. I look forward to talking with you. And now back to the episode. So when do you guys start marketing the holiday lighting? Because it does start pretty early, right? I mean, there's a big demand for this.
We go hard starting in the summer in July and especially August with commercial. And then around Labor Day.
Do you find that some of the commercial places, like they've got it built into their budget, like they're anticipating spending a certain amount on like holiday decor?
We found that some do. When they do have it built into the budget, it's because they already have a vendor. And so the opportunity for us is to, displace if they're not happy with the results.
Right.
Maybe it's, a bad experience. A lot of times, though, they don't have it in the budget, but when we connect with them in the summer, there's still room for them to make room in the budget. There's still time for them to make room in the budget. Where it becomes problematic is if we don't start the conversation. And I mean, certainly November, it's too late.
Yeah.
We're too busy. But, October is really dicey as it is.
I had a lady laugh at me because I'm calling like probably first or second week in November. And they were like one of these, not a franchise, but one of these businesses that, holiday lighting is something they do, but it's not their main business. They weren't in like mosquito or pest control, but she literally just laughed at me when I was like, "Hey, I know I'm late, but is there any chance, I can get on the list?" And she just laughed and was like, "Sorry, absolutely not." Like she said, I think she told me she had a waiting list of like over 60 people that, if they had anyone cancel last minute, they had that waiting list to go back to and start filling people in.
Yeah. I mean, that's totally typical for the industry is, it's nothing. And then bam, after Halloween, you start seeing this huge spike. Yeah. So really what our opportunity is for owners is find people like you, Wes, that are, they kind of fit the profile. You are going to want it, but you're just, you're living your life and your career and you're doing everything else you got to do. And so you're not thinking about it in September. The trick is, how do we get in front of people like Wes Barefoot in August or September, create a really simple process for you, lay out the value proposition, and then make sure that we're filled up, make sure
Are
we can solve
you are you finding that there are good ways that your franchisees are able to, say they've got a big mosquito hunter client base that they've, been building up for years. I imagine that's a pretty strategic way to start marketing the holiday lighting, right? Because there are people that have the disposable income to pay someone to come and spray for mosquitoes. They're not, wanting to do that themselves or take the DIY route. Has that been effective for you guys?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not every single customer, but it's
No.
it's the best place to start
Yeah.
because the customers know us, they like us, they trust us. It's like, why not we try to solve additional problems for them?
Yeah.
For those customers that are the right fit, we look at it this way. It's like they're going to get the lights from somebody. Somebody is going to do this work for them. So why not us?
I imagine maybe there's even a way to, offer different kind of, early sign up specials, or hey, if you're already a mosquito hunter client, you get a little bit of a discount on that because you really don't have any customer acquisition costs. So you can almost look at whatever the discount is just, your marketing expense on that.
Absolutely. We start to see most parts of the country in July, mosquito demand starts to taper off.
Okay.
It doesn't stop, but like it reaches its peak up at like
Yeah.
4th of July. And then right after 4th of July, then it starts to go in the other direction and go down, which is actually perfect because everyone understands the concept of Christmas in July,
Yeah.
thanks to whoever started that, the appliance stores or something. But
Yeah. Yeah.
so we lean on that. It's like it's a perfect way
Smart.
to start the conversation. Christmas in July. Let every customer know about it. We even have the I don't know if I showed this last time. We have the fishing shirt that looks like the sweater, but it's actually a fishing shirt material, so we can wear this in the summer.
Oh, dude, where can I order one of those?
I'll hook you up. I know a guy.
Oh man, I love my we were talking before we started recording. We do a fair amount of boating and I don't even fish that much, but you can't have too many good fishing shirts where we live. So
You'll
that
never
would
lose
that
this
would
one.
turn some heads though out on the water. That would be
Yeah.
pretty sick.
You're never going to lose this one. This is not going to get camouflaged anywhere else.
Definitely not. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, there's a lot of cool things I think you guys can do and have fun with from a marketing standpoint because of the way that you've branded it. Hey, so I want to talk about like you kind of touched on this as you mentioned, hey, when you first rolled out Pest Hunters, you had, a pilot program and then you had, someone helping you pilot the holiday lighting. Cause, this is something I find sometimes, as I'm working with potential franchisees and kind of coaching them through this process of evaluating different businesses and just naturally as humans, like we're all wired to kind of want to resist change and we don't like the unknown and so I find that is something that sometimes concerns people a little bit as they're looking at different franchises as well. What could change? What could be different in the future that's not what I'm, sitting here looking at today. And it's not an easy thing to do what you've done, right? Which is add 2 additional service lines to the original business and then completely spin 2 of them out into their own standalone brands and get your franchisees on board with that. So maybe start talking about just a little bit more about like what does that rollout process look like, because very rarely do I see a franchise say, hey, we're just going to try this and roll it out to everyone.
Right.
So how do you determine how you want to start piloting something, who you want to participate, and then how do you kind of then start getting more and more franchisees on board with it?
I've thought about this a lot over the last few years, obviously, just because it's kind of been what my career has been, is just going through this huge pivot. So that way we could have more of an empire builder opportunity for all of our owners. But yeah, I asked that question, like, if you really think about it, we all hate change, obviously. Everybody hates change.
Yeah.
Even the people that are like, oh, yeah, and I consider myself one of them. I probably have more of an appetite for change than probably, the norm. But even so, it still is really uncomfortable.
Yeah, and there's a difference between like change that you decided to make on your own versus change that someone else is saying, hey, we're changing this?
That's
There's
so
a big
true.
difference.
That's so true. And then I took a couple steps back and I said, well, life is nothing if not change. And that's what's so funny about it is like biologically we're changing all the time.
Yeah.
Cradle to grave, we go through this experience. We change cognitively and emotionally, and certainly physically.
Yeah.
We change. From an evolutionary perspective, there's always change that's happening. The plate tectonics are always shifting. The universe is accelerating. It's expanding at an accelerating rate, and all of these things. I know it's kind of heavy for talk about business, but like really, everything is changing constantly.
Though.
It's like it is, and at the same time, everybody hates change. You would think we were more open to it, considering how constant change is.
Yeah.
But the truth is, just some people have more of an appetite for it than others, and I've found that it's those who lean into change, those who do find a way to embrace it, are the ones that are the beneficiaries of the change.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's become easier and easier over time to find that within our franchise owners, because there's always this group of top performers, the ones that come back to me, they come back to us as the franchisor and they say, we want more.
Yeah.
We want more opportunities. And I came to appreciate the history of franchising too, along this journey as well. So I've posed this before to our franchisees, actually at Hunterpalooza last month. What do the DQ Blizzard, what do all these things have in common? So there's the DQ Blizzard, the Big Mac, the $5 footlong, the stuffed crust pizza, and the drive-through window. What do they all have in common? They all came from franchisees.
I heard the Jimmy John's Freaky Fast, like their I think that tagline and the smaller delivery radius was a franchisee's idea too, and everyone thought he was crazy when he first started doing it.
Right. And then it happens, and then you have success with it, and then you can share it within the system, and you can spread it around so quickly if you're open to it. If your mind is open and if you're willing to embrace the opportunity and just accept it, accept it as something that's a positive, not a negative, because now you have to do something differently. It's good that you can do something differently. That means you have a higher ceiling. You have more opportunity to build an empire than what you had before. So we had those franchisees that were saying like, I want this. I want to add these additional service lines. I literally, I had a conversation with Josh Ambrose, and he's like, we've got to do this. If you don't let me do this, I got to do this with or without you. So I'm like, no, let's do it together. Absolutely. Let's figure it out. And that's what you love to see within the system is when franchisees are that hungry.
And I think that's
growth and change.
That's so key too, right? Because there's always kind of this, a little bit of a parent-child relationship between the franchisor and the franchisees. So, if it's just something, some of your less progressive franchisees, if they feel like it's just something that corporate's telling them to do, they're not going to buy in as much. But if their peers are saying, hey, we think this is a good idea, we've actually been, trying this in our market for the last 3-4 months, whatever it is, and we're getting good results, that's going to go so much further to get, the rest of the franchisees on board with it.
Yeah, that's totally true. Because not only, are we talking about franchisees that are respected and well liked within the system, but it's like a sports team. It's like the captains are the ones that are among the best athletes on the team too. So in the franchise system, the ones that are the most respected are not just because they're nice people. It's because they're running a really good business.
Yeah, their numbers speak for themselves.
Right. So like that also makes for an easier conversation. And then kind of the last frontier, if you will, was the name, realizing at a certain point, because we're going so hard into pest control, and we've got these customers that are relying on us to solve their ants, spiders, rodent problems, et cetera. Like, is our name holding us back when we're mosquito hunters? So what do we do to make it clearer to the world that we do more than just mosquito? That was kind of the last thing, is like, do we change our name? And then to
that's a big decision too.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. Like there's no, I mean, I guess technically you can always go backwards, but not really. Like you kind of
and you're talking what, at least 10 years in, to the Mosquito Hunters brand name. So
Right.
the longer you go with it, I think the bigger of a decision it is to make any sort of a change.
Absolutely. But this is what's so good about, not only working together with franchisees and top franchisees, but also what's so great about just using the data. We
Mhm.
looked at the mosquito control industry, which is a $2 billion industry. It's not chump change, by any stretch of the
Not at
imagination.
all.
But then the pest control industry outside of mosquito, so excluding mosquito, is $24 billion.
Wow. It's that big of a difference.
Right. 12x. And then tack on, not for nothing, the holiday lighting industry. It's a $5 billion industry and it's growing faster than any of the others. So by adding them all together, we go from being in a $2 billion industry to a $31 billion industry.
Yeah, that's a hard case to argue against.
Exactly. So,
No
so,
matter how much you dislike change.
so honestly, we built a brain trust, a branding brain trust of some top performing franchisees, about 10 of
Okay.
them. We had a few calls and I shared this with them before we made the official announcement, which was in March of 2025. I made the
Okay.
announcement at Hunterpalooza, our annual conference.
Yeah.
And I shared it with them and I said, this is the plan. This is where we're going. And honestly, I was expecting there to be at least one or two voices in there where they're like, I don't know, everybody, like across the board, it was uniform. It's like, yeah, this is what we need. This is where we need to go,
Wow.
because everybody could see just how much more opportunity there was to build an empire by making that shift.
And I assume maybe kind of leading up to the announcement that, hey, this is the rebrand, you were sharing this data and some of the reasoning behind it, right? So I
Yeah,
think if you do that, then it's much more likely that you're going to get the buy-in.
that's exactly it. And that helped a lot. And everybody knew by then. I mean, it was not news that we were in the pest control space. So it was
Right.
accepted by the system. It's like, oh, yeah, of course, it's a no brainer. We should be doing pest control. The last step was just make it clear to the world that we're more than just a mosquito company.
And
It's
is this something that, so now that you've kind of been through this process, is this something at this point, is every franchisee in your system fully integrated? They're offering the pest, the mosquito, and the holiday lighting, or are you kind of phasing them in waves as they're kind of ready in their business to take it on?
We had a big wave up front once we got through the pilot of
Yeah.
a big wave of existing franchisees that adopted it and said,
Yeah.
hell yeah, let me go after it. There were others who said, well, this isn't exactly what I wanted to do at the outset. And so I want to focus on mosquito and pest, and that's fine. But the ones who have the most opportunity, the ones who are seeing the most success financially, are the ones who embrace the 3-in-1.
Sure.
And then all new franchisees that have come on, since that. I mean, really, since even before announcing the name change. This is going back over 12 months now, but everybody who's new comes on as 3-in-1 with the idea.
And that's their expectation coming into it, right? And it's probably gonna, you're gonna probably start attracting more candidates that maybe would have not necessarily been as interested in just mosquito hunters.
That's very, very astute. The
Yeah.
franchising business. It's exactly right. So
Yeah.
that's exactly what's happened. I heard this same thing from franchisees over and over at conference last month. They're like, "Man, we are getting so many good candidates. I've been talking to so many good candidates lately. These guys are like way, higher. The bar has been moved up so much higher as
Yeah.
far as the caliber." And it's totally true, because these people are saying, yeah, I want 12 months of revenue.
Big
I want
opportunity.
generational wealth. I
Yeah.
don't want, a side hustle. I don't want something semi-absentee. I want a big business. And
Yeah.
this is the model to do it.
Yeah. Makes total sense. It's exciting too, man. You got to be really excited about what's to come, because it sounds like it's already moving the needle in a big way. And you guys are really just getting started on a lot of this. So we'll get right back to the episode, but I wanted to quickly share a free resource with you. If you're curious about franchise ownership and want to learn more about how countless people, including myself, have leveraged franchising as a way to create more freedom for themselves and to take control of their livelihood, I've put together an ebook. It's called Franchise Wealth Creation, and it's the perfect starting point for anyone that's just curious to learn more about this whole franchise thing and how I've helped hundreds of other people navigate all the steps involved in understanding and researching franchising. So click the link in the show notes, fill out a short form. I'll send you the ebook. I think it's a great starting point if you're curious at all about learning more about franchising. All right, let's get back to the episode. Let me ask you this. So some of those franchisees that, at this point have not, maybe fully jumped into like the holiday lighting, will there come a time where they will essentially be obligated to, or, because they came in prior to that being part of it, are you okay if some of them just say, hey, I don't think that's what I want to do. I like having more of a seasonal business and I'm not as excited about the growth opportunity.
I mean, it's a franchise, so everybody's on a franchise agreement. Our terms are 10-year agreements. So everybody is in the middle of a 10-year agreement right now who's active.
Okay.
So when that agreement's up, they have the opportunity.
They'll have the choice at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's sign a then current form of the agreement. And then, the then current form, as far as we can see at this point, is 3-1.
Yeah.
That's going to be Humbug. So maybe it means, jump into it, once you feel a little bit more comfortable, or maybe it means have an exit. And that's something I never want owners to overlook. You should start this business with the intention of having a really good exit
at some point. Yeah.
A really lucrative exit, or maybe for some, it's, I want to pass it down to, the next generation. And then, you're not looking to optimize how much money you can make with the exit. But I mean, we're very open with our franchisees about strategies for optimizing asset value so you can have a really good exit. And this is a big part of it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, your franchisees that really, really jump into this 3-1. I mean, talk about being able to increase the value of their overall asset over time.
For sure.
Incredible. So what does this do? What does this do for your franchisees in terms of additional investment, additional overhead? Is it a significant, increase in some of those things, to incorporate the holiday lighting? I imagine you have to buy inventory of the lighting. Are you able to, do you have to get new equipment, new vehicles for the pest control? Like, what does that piece of it kind of look like? Because I think this is where people get nervous when they think about like, hey, what could change in, if I buy this franchise today, what could change in the future, and could, all of a sudden, my costs go way up and things like that.
Are you talking for the existing franchisees?
Yeah, like for the existing franchisees. But then I do want to touch on what does it look like for someone coming in now compared to, before it was the 3-1. But no, for right now, for the existing owners.
Yeah, for the existing owners, this was a huge part of building this out is, yes, we want to give everybody the opportunity to build a much larger empire. Look at the data, look at the financials, look at the industries, et cetera. But it's like, we also have to make this simple. Not easy, but it has to be simple.
Simple, yes.
And so we made it as simple as it could possibly be. And it is, I'm very proud of what we've come up with, which is a way to just install ladder racks on the existing vehicles. We have tanks in the back of our hunter mobiles. For a lot of the franchisees who've been in business for a few years, it was a Ram ProMaster City. And in the Ram ProMaster City, you can take the tanks out. So we created a whole playbook for exactly how to take the tank out temporarily, so that way you'd have space for all of the gear. And then for all of the gear that you need, we're talking, $3,000-$4,000 for most of what you need for ladders and, little devices like pitch hoppers that make it easier for your crews to install, things like that.
Okay.
Most franchisees find that it makes sense to do a rental of a boom lift, which is shockingly very affordable. That's not owning, that's just renting for a few weeks or a couple of months, however long you need it.
Yeah.
from that
I could
period.
see that making life a lot easier for many of those installs. So
Yeah, it's good from like a comfort perspective. For some, it's too hard to reach some areas. Like it sounds
yeah,
like your house, it'd probably be a lot easier to reach with a boom lift.
yeah, I would
And then
think
it's
so.
speed. Like you can just get a lot more jobs done per day when you're using something like that.
For sure. Yeah. So yeah, so you're talking, some additional investment and maybe a little more overhead, but not any, you're not, having to go out and purchase a whole new fleet of vans and trucks and things like that, at least to get
No,
started. You probably scale as you keep scaling, you get to that point, but that's the goal.
and the beauty of this is it's much higher revenue per job. Like I said, average job size $1,900.
Yeah.
And the model is we don't put you, Mr. Customer, on the schedule until we get a 50% deposit. And so it's really easy to cash flow the inventory that you
That's
need
important.
because of that.
Yeah.
The equipment is actually, it's nominal. And even the material costs compared to most other home and commercial service businesses that are out there, it is actually quite nominal. And I would go toe to toe from a net profit perspective with just about any of them.
Yeah.
It's really good as far as that goes. And
Yep.
so it can make sense financially pretty quickly, within, a couple dozen jobs, which you can't say for a lot of other spaces.
No, no, indeed. So what does it look like now? And you don't need to give specific numbers even, but the capital that would be required for someone to come in, start with the 3-in-1 model. What does that look like compared to, a year or two ago when it was really still just mosquito hunters?
It's a difference of probably $15,000
Wow.
over the sake of like the entire investment. It's not a
Wow.
huge difference once you compare them apples to apples.
So you
It's
get
just, and it's just way more like it's 15 times the size of the industry as it was, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that's
Not a
incredible.
bad
I mean, it's and like some of these questions are coming from, even some personal experience because we own a Shelf Genie franchise and
right.
we're right at 7 years into it now. And Shelf
Congratulations.
Genie, yeah, originally it was just pull out shelving systems primarily in kitchens, pantries, and bathrooms. We weren't really in the closet space, right? But for very similar reasons to what you outlined, pull out shelving was pretty niche, and at one point Shelf Genie was really like the only national company of any sort doing it. And they had, this is probably 2017 2018 timeframe, probably 45 million in system-wide revenue, somewhere in that range. And so you could probably say like the custom pull out shelving industry was like 60 million, $60 million industry, right? And then you look at the custom closet industry, California closets, closets by design, where you've got numerous big national players. It's
Right.
closer to $1 billion industry, right?
Wow.
So naturally, some of the forward thinking Shelf Genie owners and ones that were really, wanting to build a big business, we started looking at, hey, and our customers would ask us about it too, right? Because it's all storage and organization. And so
Right. Very
most,
similar.
very many of the people that we were going in to look at their pantries or their kitchens would also be interested in a closet. And so anyways, so we now do closets in our Shelf Genie franchise. We have for a while, but yeah, I don't know. It was not a super clean transition. There's still a lot of franchisees that don't do it. You definitely do need more infrastructure, to really build out a closet business than what you needed for Shelf Genie. Warehouse, forklift is really good to have because of the way these things ship and stuff. So anyways, there's all these things to take into consideration, if you're a franchisor and, you're contemplating making some of these big changes. And it sounds like you guys did, a really good job of making it a smooth process for your owners and a no-brainer, to the point where you really haven't even gotten much pushback. And it sounds like most people are jumping in with both feet, ready to get started.
I was telling you right before we hit the record button, like I feel like this is a really great payoff for the system and like for me, honestly, personally, based on my career, based on like the mistakes of the past. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. all the classic good ways and bad ways. I'm very entrepreneurial. And so,
Yeah.
once we started going down this path with these pilot groups, of course, my instinct is to want to just jump now. Be like, let's roll this out. I was ready to roll this out in my heart, 2 years ago. But, my brain told me otherwise, is we need to really take our time, really get this right, really validate all the details of the model. And yeah, there's no question. The reason why it's gone as well as it has is because we went slow,
Yeah.
slow is smooth and smooth is fast, as the saying goes.
Yeah. That's a good point. When you're talking, would you say 150 locations? I mean, you gotta be methodical before, you ask that many people to jump in on something. And, it sounds like you guys have done a really good job with that. But I
And
mean,
it's a
look, I
huge,
think
go ahead.
I would say I think this is a perfect example of where, anyone out there, and not just in a franchise and any sort of business in your life, like, we're wired to kind of resist change. And it is interesting to think about why that is, considering everything is always changing,
Right.
ourselves, the world around us, but we don't typically like it and we want to resist it. But, it's so often a good thing that's going to, help take you to the next level. And so,
Right.
I think
If
for
you
those out
lean
there
into it,
listening, it's a really good takeaway. Like, change can be very good and very positive.
no doubt. If you lean into it, if you embrace it, if you
Yeah.
roll with it rather than
Yeah.
try to fight it and resist it, that's where it becomes problematic.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, it's like, this is a really good example of where the really good franchise companies out there, they're always looking at their business and looking at, the landscape around them and saying, where do we have opportunity to get better? Where can we create more opportunity for our franchisees? And for whatever reason, I think a lot of people tend to look more at potential change in something like a franchise as more negative than positive. But it's like, you don't want to get into a franchise that's just stagnant. Like, we all know the examples. Blockbuster, right? I mean, all these companies that just didn't change, they didn't adapt, they didn't evolve, and now they're gone, right?
Right.
So
Right.
you don't want the franchise that's not going to change, that's just going to kind of sit back on its laurels. Like, you want the franchise with the entrepreneur like Andy at the helm, that's never going to be comfortable just staying exactly where you are. That's always going to be, looking at things and testing things. And I think, look, another good example of where, if you are pretty entrepreneurially minded, that doesn't mean a franchise would be too constricting for you. Because I hear that from some people too, like, your franchisees that are really leaning in and, volunteering to help you pilot things, like, doesn't really get much more entrepreneurial than that, because I'm sure they tried a lot of things and brought some great ideas to the table, and they probably tried some things that didn't work. Like, you wouldn't have been able to pull this off in as smooth of a fashion as you did if it weren't for those franchisees that, really volunteered to jump in and help you figure it out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We would not be here, period, without the franchisees, being so heavily involved. And I do get that feedback from franchisees quite a bit, is that they appreciate the willingness to adapt and grow. And I'd say that if somebody wants to work in a business and own a business with that kind of culture, I'd say, like, I don't intend on having that change anytime in the foreseeable future. I don't know what the future holds, but I
Yeah.
know I've learned well enough that life is good, and it's good for business when we speak openly and we have an open mind for what lies
Yeah.
ahead.
100%. When franchising is run that way, right, where it's just really looked at as a partnership, and there's good communication, from all sides involved, like, that's where the magic happens. If it turns into this, strenuous, type of relationship where, the franchisee feels like the franchisor is just, nitpicking and, bossing them around, like that kind of parent child relationship, like, that's not fun for anyone. And you're probably
No,
not going to make a whole hell of a lot of progress.
it's true. And then you're going to be so pissed off that you don't even have enough energy left to make money.
That's it. That's it. And making money is a lot more fun, especially when you're doing it with great people that are like-minded and that you want to spend your time with. So, hey man, congrats on all the success. It's I know it's not easy to pull something like this off, with a franchise of 150 plus locations. So, it's really exciting, and I can't wait to see where you guys take it from here. And we'll definitely have you back for round 3 at some point once you guys have something else exciting that you're rolling out. But
We've got a few things we're working on in the kitchen.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it at all. But where should we point people if they want to see if they have a local mosquito hunters or Humbug holiday lighting or pest hunters in their local area?
Check out mosquitohuntersfranchise.com.
All right.
It's got all the information on the 3-in-1. It's our original URL, but it's got everything: mosquito hunters, pest hunters, Humbug holiday lighting. And also follow me on LinkedIn if you're interested in more. I'm trying this year to be very intentional about posting some useful content for people who are looking to learn more about entrepreneurship.
Good. I like that. And you've got so much good advice and experience and insight to share. So I'll make sure we get your LinkedIn profile link and put that in the show notes to make it easy for people to find. But Andy, man, appreciate it. Love what you guys are doing, and keep up the great work out there.
Thanks so much, Wes. Thanks again for having me on. Take care.
Anytime. Thanks.